Monday, Monday, so good to me.
Hey, it's Monday.
Medical.
Monday.
Under the new law, it is still illegal to use pot in public, on college campuses, and while driving.
But it's a Monday. Smoking marijuana all in public. You would think that shit was legal.
Well, marijuana is now a multi-billion-dollar industry. There are people sitting in prison today for marijuana offenses.
Marijuana is not a drug.
A bill to decriminalize marijuana on the federal level was passed by the House Judiciary Committee today on a 24-10 vote.
That's some heavy shit, man.
As more and more states make marijuana legal, Major League Baseball will change its policy to keep up. The league has removed pot from its list of drugs of abuse and replaced it with opioids.
I'm hitting it so hard.
Well, you know, Al, obviously you're active in the cannabis community.
Yep.
And my question for you is, when is the NBA going to catch up with the rest of society and change their policies when it comes to cannabis?
I think it's really soon because the players is like they want it bad. You know what I'm saying? They bring it up, you know, in meetings.
Critics worry the wait could lead to high demand on the black market where there's no oversight.
What kind of joint is this, man?
Medical.
And welcome to Medical Mondays, y'all. This is your host with the most THC in his motherfucking bloodstream, BERG. And of course, I got my right-hand man, my compadre, my co-host with me, Ed Rocho.
What up, though?
Of course, we got our returning guests for, man, it's been going on for a minute now. Ever since we went to Zoom, they've been joining us. Jamie Lowell and Rick Thompson are in the building.
Our quarantine compadre.
Right.
And I hear
you qualified that we're the quarantine compadre. Oh,
we dig it when you can't. So you are prejudiced because you think of us as your quarantine compadres and not your compadres.
I felt discriminated.
Oh, see, that's Roach, man.
I know.
I was just using alliteration and trying to make it sound cool, man, but we've been homies for a long fucking time.
Yeah, we like it when you guys make it on our show too.
For sure.
We have a good time. Of course, Jazz Cabbage Cafe every Tuesday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern.
Boom. And you're supposed to be having Captain Kirk on tomorrow.
Yep, he's he made a move to Oklahoma and is already facing some big challenges. So check him.
Yeah.
He's been around here for a long time and part of my whole journey in this world. So I'd like to see how he's doing.
So yeah, before we get into anything else, I want to give a big shout out to all of our sponsors. Of course, Honeybee Extractions, Maple 313, Ghostbuster Farms, Western Tobacco, Michigan Turf Farms, and Label My Motherfucking Bud. I also want to give a shout out to Cannabis Promos 313. She's coming through with those dope ass hoodies.
Big shout out to Cannabis Promo.
So yeah, what's everybody smoking on tonight?
Deadhead for me. Love that strain.
Damn, Deadhead. I haven't had Deadhead. I don't think I've ever had Deadhead.
Oh,
Yeah.
So good.
A little sour OG going on over here right now.
Mm-hmm.
Smoking some banana OG over here. How about you, Roach?
The last of the Sprite from Michigan Turf Farms.
Go wrong.
This is awesome stuff there.
I had some chocolate earlier. Had some chocolate from Uncle Cannabis up here in the Genesee County area. It was really good. So a recommendation that way too.
never heard of Uncle Cannabis.
Man,
BC, come up to Vehicle City.
what was it?
All right, might check it out.
Bud's Bowling too. Yeah.
Man, so when does what? Fuck.
You said we got some.
I'm just trying to. I'm trying to imagine when the next cannabis event will be.
Well, I mean, there's small scale events going on all the time. There's a golf outing coming up. There was the MICIA event that Jamie went to in Traverse, which had a couple hundred people at. We were just at an event this weekend in Kensington Metro Park, which had about 80 people at it. And
Oh, yeah?
Yep. Yeah. So it was a customer appreciation day for a company called Securitech. Rudy Petros, they do security systems for the cannabis industry, interior, exterior, things like that. And it was wonderful. Chef Bobby's team from Channel 2 in Detroit catered. Food was amazing. Jamie, back me up on this, man. Food was just great. Yep.
Really nice spread. A lot of people were familiar with the chef, and it added an extra little dimension to the event. It was pretty cool. It was good networking. A lot of good people who are participating in different ways were there and made some connections.
I met some people that I hadn't seen since the Big Daddy days. They reminded me, I didn't even actually recognize them. They reminded me that they had been some of the growers that we'd used at Big Daddy's all the way back in 9 and 10, back when we had the facility in Oak Park. And it was good to see that there were some people left over from that time still out there getting stuff done and still helping patients and having the right head. When you talk to people, sometimes you can tell when they maybe have just flipped over to the I'm trying to make money type of a philosophy, but no. So
that dude rode on the buses with us. 2010, when we went to Oakland County in front of the county courthouse and protested, and then drove up to in front of Lapeer County courthouse and protested, all like 3 or 4 buses full of people, signs and everything.
There was a time when in order to protest some of the raids that were going on in Dryden, which is in Lapeer County, and then also in Oakland County, Michigan Association of Compassion Centers arranged to take a bunch of protesters straight to the jaws of the beast. We went right to the Lapeer County Sheriff's Department and protested on the sheriff's front lawn. We went to the Lapeer County Courthouse, protested on their sidewalk, and then we came to Oakland County and did the exact same thing at those 2 facilities too. And everywhere we went, we had TV cameras. They hated it. It was beautiful. It was a good number of people too that hauled with us. It was nice.
Pretty fucking cool, man. I mean, I think we, as long as we stay responsible and keep the numbers low, and I guess wear a mask around each other, we should be all right.
So, our store in East Tawas reported a positive COVID employee. We heard about it last night and have had to go into our response protocol, the CDC protocols, and we didn't have to shut down under these particular circumstances, but we voluntarily shut down, did a deep clean, and getting everybody tested before reopening.
That's a responsible reaction by business, I think.
Well, as we discussed it, it's a tough discussion. It's it's a few days of revenue, being given up, but the obvious thing you balance against is the safety of everybody involved. And, chances are good everything is already okay, but these extra measures really have to make everybody feel a lot more comfortable to ensure that we were as responsible as we could be. People are flipped out, understandably.
Wow. So what is the protocol? Do you have to notify the patients that were in the store during the times?
No, not unless there were extenuating circumstances. Right now, there may have been other times where or they might, but if these certain protocols are in place, the CDC has a particular definition of close contact, which is within 6 feet, unmasked for 15 minutes or more. And if that didn't take place, then there's no reason to contact anybody. And in this particular case, masks being worn, plexiglass, distance, and not that long a period of time. So,
you know, sales are tracked in the medical program, so you'd know which medical customers were in your store at that particular time. But in the recreational market, sales are not tracked. So there's really no way to know who that guy in the blue shirt or that girl with the long hair was. There's no way to know.
There's some of the phone tracing that takes place, but you have to respond within 24 hours, let everybody know, vendors, crew, all that kind of stuff, and the Department of Health. And then they evaluate the circumstances and decide what to do. In this particular case, it didn't rise to the level of risk where they were going to use the phone tracing mechanism. But I guess they might try that if they thought that the risk was high enough. And however much you can get from that, I guess that varies. A lot of people are scared to respond to those inquiries.
Yeah.
Or don't want to deal with it. But we'll get back up and running, and everybody will know that the negative test came back, and the place is totally cleaned out and was able to air out for a couple days at least, and we'll just resume business. But there are some places that have chosen to not really stop and I'm not talking about in our industry. I mean, like in the area, and there's like a mini outbreak, kind of evidence of a mini outbreak outpouring from those locations. And this is related to that. There was a slight intersection with us, so we have to, that's why we're involved. But they actually have some problems that are emerging from there. This isn't a little town someplace. It only takes one person getting in a little crowd, and you have this kind of thing. So.
Well, especially when most of the townspersons, are in disbelief because they're, rural and they are Republican and they believe the coronavirus is some sort of a scam or a trick being perpetrated on them, so they don't want to social distance or wear masks.
Our president, they're actually listening to our.
Right, and it started from the lack of coherent and timely direction coming from the federal level when this thing all started.
Yeah.
And that was just recently admitted to by the person who could have not done that.
Yeah, remember what Trump complained about China? China didn't give us all the facts. China withheld things. China downplayed the virus when we needed them to be honest. And then what did he do to the American people? He downplayed the virus and withheld facts at a time when we needed him to be honest. So what'd you prove? All governments are the same and you're a fuckhead?
He didn't want to cause, people to start to worry.
But worry probably
public a favor, bro.
Worry would have saved lives. I know you're just trying to be contrary to start some shit, but that's cool. But man, worry would have saved some lives, Roach. You know that.
It would have.
Man,
no, he just totally.
You gotta think though. If there's a fucking huge ass comic coming for us, like coming straight at the earth, you think they're gonna tell us about that shit? Yeah. Hell no.
Well, I think they couldn't keep it quiet because there's so many different scientists all across the globe who would all know the comet's coming that there's no way you can keep a lid on it.
They can sneak up on it. So the biggest tragedy in all that to me is that we now have the technology to bump comets out of trajectory to hit us when we recognize that they could possibly be coming too close to us for comfort. So some type of an effort there would be nice. How that is funded and who might be motivated to do that, can't tell you, but I think it might be worth looking into since we could save humanity.
Well, with our computers, we can accurately project trajectory, and that means we can
Yeah,
accurately
yeah.
launch something to intercept in trajectory. Now, what happens when it intersects? Whether that's a Bruce Willis nuclear bomb, or whether it is another something that just continually pushes it an inch, so that it misses us. That's the way.
Discussion is to bump it off the trajectory without like blowing it up, so you have more pieces that are potential hazards.
Change its direction just ever so slightly, especially if you get it far enough out. A tiny deviance in trajectory means it misses us completely, and then smacks another more advanced civilization further down the road. But we don't care about that.
I know.
Just miss us, man. I know you guys have been counting on this comet to miss you like this every single year, but Earth fucked you up this time.
There's the belt that we go through twice a year.
I was
12
just
days.
throwing it out there as just as an idea to think of. They wouldn't tell us about that shit. I don't care what you say.
Well, I mean, look, George W. Bush didn't say anything on 9/11. That just happened.
Our government would deny this shit.
You're saying, Roshi, he was getting intelligence about these weird situations of people taking classes to learn how to fly but not how to land and that type of shit.
No, like the morning of, when he's reading the upside down book to the kids. Let's not forget the golden years.
Somebody goes in and tells him his ear. Right?
No, I liked how they found the passport of one of the hijackers, like outside, like in pristine condition, like just out.
Like it blew out of the aircraft and flew magically out of the flames untouched, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to identify. Hey, that's right.
The steel beams that are supposedly melted but look like they're cut at a 45-degree angle. Those kind of things. Yeah.
Fucking the Pentagon. Like, where's the fucking airplane?
I know.
Where's the wings? Where's the wings?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There would be some kind of impact besides a round hole. But
I don't know about any of the.
Let's get back to weed.
Questions
Let's
and stuff
get
like
back
that.
to weed. All right, weed. I feel so fucked up. I feel fucked up.
Berg, who's in chat? You were saying earlier, and I interrupted you. You said Dylon's in chat. Who else is hanging out?
Dark Stout Dad. He said Roach is the best. Fuck you, Berg. Chronic Illusions is in here. Prop One's in here. Your boy Roy Boy is in here. What up, though? But yeah, I really feel sorry for all these people in fucking Colorado and like California. Everywhere is like fucked up right now. It's either fires, and then Colorado got hit with all that fucking snow. Like it's like possibly like $1 million worth of fucking just hemp.
Yep.
We just had the hurricanes in the Gulf and all of that.
About to have another one, Roach. Did you see that?
Yeah.
They say slow moving, only 6 miles an hour, and it's gonna make landfall in Alabama, creep over through Georgia, just slowly meander its way through the South. That's a lot of rain. Oh my God, those people don't need that. Jeez.
No.
The
disease.
Did you check the President Trump's comment on global warming? Did you see that from today? He's in California talking to the governor of California and all these science guys about the wildfires, and they're showing videos, and the governor says, look, it's a clear example of global warming. This is what we have. He says, wood burning on the forest floor. He says, don't worry about it. It's all going to get cooler. One day, it's just all going to be cooler. And the science guy says, I don't think science supports that theory, sir. And he said, I don't think even science understands it yet, but it's just going to get cooler one day.
That's the mentality of our leader and his followers. What source do they have? What method do they have that's better than science?
This is
true.
Jamie, I totally agree. There's no methodology there, but if what you're trying to do is to pacify people, to say, hey, nothing to see here. Keep moving, folks. I know there's blood on the sidewalk, but nothing to see here. Keep going. Come on. That's their move. completely have a rosy picture of everything. Everything's great. America's already great. We're going to keep it being great. That's their whole theme, their whole theory. They're speaking to a slice of America that own boats and take vacations in foreign countries and care that the stock market's doing well. Most of us, that shit ain't real. It's not real.
I mean, you know, the thing though, Rick, is like, what do you do when like that's your neighbors though? Like your neighbors are supporting this. You know, I get lost when it's like this divisiveness is what's the main political thing going on. Is like, you know, pick a side. And then when I hear people say you gotta vote, then I hear pick a side, any side, just pick a side.
But if you don't vote for one of these two, then you're just wasting your vote. And
it's a fucked up discussion. But sometimes the facts do mean that. That doesn't mean that fits your consciousness for voting.
Yeah. And certainly the reality of what we have today in America is not our ideal. The reality is there are only two candidates that stand a chance of achieving the office, and that it really is going to be a thin margin that separates the two of them. And so a vote that could be cast for sense, reason, and decency is thrown away, literally, if it's cast for a Green Party or a Libertarian who have no chance of winning. But, you know, certainly people have to vote their conscience. Got to vote your conscience, but
right. It has that value. It has the value of
the value of voting your conscience.
Not buying into the constant lesser of evil bullshit decision that people faced with making every time come close to maybe having some ability to really affect change. Then
you can talk about change, or you can vote for change. And voting for a candidate who has no chance of winning office is not voting for change. It's just masturbation at the vote.
But
it's a protest vote to the two-party system.
You know, but like
it makes you feel good, but that's all it does. It doesn't help anything. It just makes you feel good.
On the flip side of the coin, you know, from somebody who would kind of benefit from, you know, the system changing from the inside and all of that, I'd have to say that if it did, it would probably fuck everything up, because this country's built to run on corruption, and if you start doing shit the right way, it's gonna fuck up money, basically.
What we've seen is shit's getting fixed on local levels, on statewide levels. Things are getting better by degrees. We are doing some things that are positive. It is happening. But, you know, in order to perpetuate that, you have to keep the people in power that are actually making change. Republicans want the status quo. They want to keep their votes. They want to keep those vacations in foreign countries. They don't want that to be threatened. The Democrats want change. We have to respect our homeless. We have to respect the people that don't have anything. We have to respect African Americans in the United States of America, people of color. Even people who aren't registered to vote still need the protection of the voters. You know, welcome to our shores. We are the greatest nation on the planet, and we treat all people equally. At least that's our goal. The current administration certainly does not. Remember kids in cages on the Mexican border? Roach, you got to vote to stop that, right? You got to vote to stop the kids in cages on the Mexican border. Yeah.
My vote would not stop that. No matter who we vote for, whether it's Biden or Trump, they're going to put them little Mexicans in them cages because they've been doing that.
They were never doing that before. The cages were constructed. You saw they constructed cages. They didn't exist before. They were constructed by the Trump team, right? And under a Democratic administration, that shit goes away. We have a much more sane policy on the border. It's not cage them and try and scare people from crossing the border by making it such a horrible fucking experience that we treat them like non-humans. That's just wrong. And these people did that. We cannot reward them. We cannot allow that to happen again. Not in America. We have to change it. And the only way to change it is with a vote. Every one of us casts a vote.
Right. And that's all true. But the frustration in part is that we change it, so to speak, back toward a time that in and of itself, although government was reset, there was a understanding of the balance of powers, respect for the Constitution generally, and things like that, not as out of whack and ridiculous as this has gotten. But the best we get is back to a time still desperately in need of change, with some hope that some of those changes might come around, understandably.
But there's no. I disagree with that, Jamie. Why would you think that we would? Change means that we would go back to the way things were. I disagree. I think when we change it, we modify it, learn with all of the information learned from these past 4 years.
Right. I hope so, right?
I mean, God, I can't imagine trying to roll policies back to like an
No,
08.
when they get their way, they just modify the system to fucking fit their way, and then
It's kind of the establishment approach, whether regardless of party, I think is being referred to. That's kind of what
they don't give a fuck about us.
We have to push towards change. Change is our goal. The staying the same is unacceptable. Change is the goal. And change is going to come about whether we stand on our heads and do nothing, or whether we charge forward on our feet. So the question becomes, are we going to be part of the people who decide change, or are we going to be part of the people who suffer from change? I choose to be part of the people who decide change. And that's why I'm involved in the different organizations. That's why I do these podcasts. That's why I'm here with y'all, because this is part of influencing change. Dylon didn't believe in cannabis before your podcast started. Now he's a big believer, man. Look at that. That is probably not true, actually. I don't know that guy. I'm sure he was probably smoking before.
He probably believes he can get better cannabis now.
That could be true. Certainly if he's, hitting Michigan Ganja Queen or doing any of the sponsors, then he knows he's getting the better stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of reasons you can argue for non-participation in the system, but at the end of the day, strip all the arguments away, you're still trying to say doing nothing is okay. Fuck that. That's not American, man. Doing nothing is okay? No, it's not acceptable. Come on.
I'm voting Kanye.
I still have that photo for the background, the Kanye vote.
No, I think that there can be action and inaction in the sense that, whenever I find somebody that I feel is receptive and the situation allows for, the ability to speak freely, I tell people and I challenge their political views, regardless if they're Republican or Democrat. I think that's where I'm putting my vote, into people, as opposed to a ballot box.
I think if there's 30 people on the ballot and you choose to only vote for one because the other 29 guys are schmucks, you're still a great American. You're still doing your duty, right? You're still deciding for yourself what you're going to do and participating in the system. I mean,
the Constitution says that if it's corrupt, burn this motherfucker down.
Yeah.
Yep. I believe there's some people trying to do that right now.
I'm telling you, man. We need to make bird bombs.
Spread the can of love, right? What they did the Israel thing, they tried to imitate the Berg bomb in Israel, where they had the drone that flew over the kilo drop.
Yeah, Bruce brought that up last week. Yeah.
Yep, they tried the Berg bomb concept right there.
The green drone.
So Berg, how would your Berg bombs differ from that?
It'd be a fucking instant blast of fucking concentrate, bro. Like,
unavoidable, right? You don't have to open a package.
Choice. You don't have the choice of using it. You just have it imposed into your system.
I love that shit.
Way to do it, for sure.
That's funny.
Everybody's getting high. There ain't no getting away from it.
Yeah. Well, for some people, that's the only way they'd take it in, because, that's the only way they'll try it is accidentally.
Like the naked bomb, but it's the canna bomb.
Define the naked bomb. Is that from a movie?
It's yes, it is. Everybody should watch it if they haven't. Apparently, some people have not.
Is that the title of the movie?
I think so. Is that the title of the movie, Naked Bomb? I think it's. If I remember correctly, it might be like a Maxwell Smart movie, like based on the TV show. They did a couple.
So what is it? What does the Naked Bomb do?
I think that's what it is. It's like you know. I think. I think. Let me see here. Hold on.
Are you talking about the Naked Gun?
No.
He's looking it up now.
Well, now I may have like the Nude Bomb. Sorry.
Okay, I'll give you credit for it. That's close enough. The Nude Bomb. And what was that? A Maxwell Smart movie or what?
Well, yes. In fact, I was correct about that also.
He missed it by that much.
While
a great reference.
While enjoying retirement, Secret Agent Maxwell Smart soon finds the world needs his services again. With chaos terrorist plot underway, the chief of the PITS agency re-enlists Smart to keep chaos from detonating bombs that leave their helpless victims in the buff.
I mean,
there you go. 1980.
That's one way to encourage global peace.
That sounds like a Skinamax special.
Bow, 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 wow, 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 bow, 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 wow, 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 wow.
Damn.
You hear it often enough, it just burns into your skull.
So have you guys heard about these tests they did on papers and wraps in California?
Yeah, it's like heavy metals and other shit in them.
Yeah, like 91 out of 101 failed for metals.
Pesticides.
And then 1 in 20 failed for pesticide. Yeah, it's horrible, man. But I don't know. It seems like, you know, I know backwoods aren't the best, and I don't see them on this list. But all these flavored fucking wraps is killing y'all. Like bad, like arsenic, lead, cadmium, all in that shit.
So all the flavorings that they couldn't legally use in food, they had to find a new use for. Guess what they decided to use it for?
Mm-hmm.
The contaminants are primarily found in flavored wraps.
So I'm seeing the pineapple zigzag cigar cones, the blueberry cigar cones, the ultra thin elements rice cones, King Kong.
That's not a flavored one though.
No,
Right.
ultra thin elements. Elements has a reputation for having more of a pure product too, right?
Yeah, no, and I mean the
That's
thing
not a flavor.
here is,
No, it's not.
even like those $100 papers, that fucking tested high for lead, and it's not the rolling papers. You know, if you get a European made rolling paper, you're probably getting some good shit, just because the standards are pretty high in Europe for what they allow into the market, regardless if it's food or not, any kind of consumable. But these wraps, the cones, they seem to be made in other countries on other continents, and I'm gonna say it, China.
Yep.
And
Made in Taiwan, which is, China.
Yeah, so the hydro lemonade high hemp wraps, the twisted hemp wraps, all of this shit that, like, I know you guys like it, man, but like, you're killing yourself. Don't do it. And I was gonna say, do we have anybody that's like testing that shit here in Michigan?
You have to pay to test, and there's no group that I know that's trying to advance that. Although a university group might take that study up. Sometimes what happens is you'll see something like that info, just like the article that you read, and that's going to inspire some grad student, and then he pitches an idea to his paper committee, and then they say, sure, yeah, write a thesis on that, and then they go ahead and do some research. That's how that usually goes on, because no one's going to pay somebody to do that. But see, here's the thing. This is a case where we let whatever China produces get dumped on the American market without any standards because a couple of guys make bucks. What we really have to do is impose those European-style standards on the things that we consume, especially in the smoking industry, when it comes to papers and other things. And filters. I'm curious to see what's in the filters, man.
Yeah. No, and the way this all started was where they had clean oil and clean flour, and then once it was put into a cartridge or a pre-roll, it no longer could pass the test.
We have that problem in Michigan too.
We just may.
I know that we do, because I've had people complain that they have great flour that tested fine, and that they put it in pre-rolls, and once it's in its final packaging, sometimes it has to go through testing, and then it would fail as a pre-roll, even though it passed without being rolled, and it's because the fucking paper. Wow.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's basically how all of this shit is coming to light. The product is being contaminated by the delivery apparatus, not the product itself. So, they started doing research, they started testing, and they're finding all this shit. And this is just in California, though. They're finding all this shit, and they're telling the public, don't worry, it never made it to market. But I feel like if it didn't make it to market in California, it made it to market in one of those other 49 states. And I don't know. I know they got this down the street at the gas station. All the shit I'm seeing on this list, and it's a small little list, and there's way more names on here.
You said there were 90 things tested, something like that. Is that right?
Over 100. Over 100 different paper products.
There's got to be like you said earlier, Roach. There's got to be like 2,000 different types of paper manufacturers out there with all the different flavors they have and the different things they got. The grape cones versus grape papers versus all those different things.
Mm-hmm.
To try and test the entire industry, that's the responsibility of the manufacturers. It should be the responsibility of the consumers.
Well, here we are, man. 2020.
Sometimes unregulated market is a big advantage, like it was for patients, from 2008 until essentially 2016 and shortly thereafter. But sometimes having an unregulated market means that business takes advantage of consumers. You see this in a product that costs 15 cents to manufacture, but ends up costing $5 at the market. Because they could get away with charging 75 cents for it, but the market will support $5. And why not make an extra 3,000%, right? This is the way that business treats consumers in a marketplace where there really aren't any controls on business performance. We really do need to have some controls on business performance.
Yeah, no, it's bad all over. It's bad all over.
Yep. We interviewed Dana Nessel the other day as a Michigan Cannabis Caucus, and we asked her about setting up an 800 number for people, common folks, to be able to contact the Attorney General's office to report things like cops who aren't obeying the cannabis laws or are telling wrong laws, or municipalities aren't doing things, but also for businesses who are mistreating their employees or who are maybe, violating election law by having, election paraphernalia and trying to induce their employees to vote for one candidate or the other. And that's really what we're trying to do here, is trying to give people an opportunity to really speak out when they see things that are happening that are incorrect. I mean,
Yeah, no, like I hate when I see people with like distillate carts and they're telling me that it's a sativa or an indica or a hybrid. You know, it's just like we need. I don't want to say we need to stop lying to people because I'm not, but
I
in the
mean,
big
once you've
picture,
stripped all
man,
the terps off, is it really sativa or indica anymore, right?
No.
The description doesn't really like
They do
have
have
a lot
like
of
rosin.
great meaning in the first place. Then to add it to something that's been totally stripped down to, you know, some bare essentials or whatever fundamentals.
Yeah, no, like, you know, it's good that like people learn about the plant and, you know, they know the difference between indica and sativa, but like they got to know more than just being able to say it. You know, that they got to really understand what this plant is doing, because they don't. Like the general public really doesn't understand the mechanics of cannabis, as it were. Like, you know, I got a headache, so I'm gonna smoke a joint. My back hurts, I'm gonna smoke a joint. You know, I got stomach pain, I'm gonna smoke a joint. You know, like,
I want to go to bed, I'm going to smoke a joint. Smoke the wrong joint and then try to go to sleep, it's not going to work.
Let's smoke this roll joint while I roll this next joint.
yeah, you know, and then they lose confidence. They're like, you know, I smoke my indica cart right before bed and it's not helping.
See,
That's a common thing I hear
there
sometimes
is
too, Roach.
different kind of carts you can get though. There are different kind of carts you can get. You can get rosin carts, and you can get like the little diamond carts and everything. You know, there are actual extract carts you can get, but you're talking about the distillate carts. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying there's a
I'm
difference.
talking about misinformed
I know,
patients in
I
general.
know. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
There are.
No, okay, yeah, like let's make that distinction. There is that, but the chances when that's actually the case is really unlikely. Most often people don't know what they're talking about when it comes to the cannabis that they're ingesting. And, you know, the way they should be ingesting for whatever it is that is ailing them in particular. I don't know. We need to do some awareness with that.
And the fact that hybrids have kind of almost erased the difference between sativa and indica anymore, because I just believe almost anybody that tells me they have a pure sativa or a pure indica. I just think probably not, right?
Yeah, no. Everything's been fucking. I don't know. It's just dominant, I would say.
Yeah, I believe people when they tell me they have like an indica dominant or a sativa dominant, because everything's tainted at this point. You know, I say we've lost way more genetics than we have now. Like people think it's so crazy we have all these names, strains, but like there was so much more before we really knew what it was.
There's something called land race strains, you know, like original strains, strains that go back to the stuff growing wild in some of the, you know, the foundational areas of the globe where cannabis plants are believed to have originated in the different, you know, geographies that they came from. It's possible that we may just end up genetically engineering cannabis plants to start again from those type of genomes, and then, you know, maybe start a whole brand new strain of pure this or pure that. But right now, everything is muddied. It's really difficult. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe in some seed bank. If a seed bank that has a great reputation that you know that I believe in, I don't know any seed banks, but if there was one that had a great reputation I believed in, and they said they had something, I'd buy it. I believe it. I would. But when someone presents to me cannabis that's grown and they say that it's purely one thing or the other, then that makes me suspicious of the person saying it, as well as suspicious of the identity of the cannabis itself. So, what about legalization laws coming up this November? Have you heard anything about what's going on?
What's going on, man? Fill us in.
5 states in November, on November 3rd, are going to vote for different programs, but they're going to vote for 8 different programs. Can you believe it? 3 states have 2 different programs they're going to vote for. In one of them, they're voting for medical and recreational together. Another, they have 2 competing medical programs. And then the third, they have a legalization program, but also an additional measure that disauthorizes it for 21 years and older. Those are companion bills, essentially, expected to be passed together, similar to the way Detroit had to vote on 2 things in order to pass a cannabis ordinance a couple years ago. They had the enabling ordinance and the zoning ordinance, both of which passed. So it's and one of them is South Dakota. South Dakota, Nebraska, and Idaho are the last 3 states in the United States of America that have no pro-cannabis laws. 47 states have some kind of positivity. South Dakota is about to blow the doors off. They're going to both go to rec and adult use in the same year. Same vote. MPP's running that, and Matthew Schweik, who Jamie and I are familiar with from his days in the MRTMA here in Michigan, he says the polling suggests that the voters in South Dakota are ready. They're ready to go both rec and medical. They see a value in both programs, so they decided to do it. First time ever. Both in the same time.
And Nebraska was denied by their state Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Medical ballot.
They tried to do it, but there's a tough mechanism in some of those really deeply red states that really just doesn't want to switch over. South Dakota is deeply Republican too, and they resisted as well. But the citizenry is ready for it. You know, it's got to be tough at this point, seeing all these neighboring states doing all this stuff, not really seeing any catastrophe happening because of it, and then being told by your leaders that you're not allowed to do that seems completely disingenuous. And it's also a way for people to learn to hate government. That's what the war on drugs did, is it made people hate their government. Putting people away for ridiculous nonviolent offenses makes people hate the government. You know, getting fucked over and jacked around just because you have a small bag of cannabis or a loose joint makes people hate the government. So they were really successful at making people hate the government. A la our movement nowadays.
Yeah, I learned to hate the government.
Jamie's inside. We're used to the outdoor thing. You know, you can like hold a lighter in front of your face and pretend that you're in front of a live flame like it used to be.
I have a fan that's blowing smoke out the door, and that is now acceptable as long as I'm in this space. And it is preferred because apparently while outside, on the porch, outside, I scream things like vagina and fuck and stuff like that.
You do actually use those words on these podcasts. That's true.
Happened. Those are the words that were used in description to me about why not to do that. So.
Indoors is not bad. It's getting cold too here in Michigan. For those of you who are not aware, it was not a really toasty day today. So, interessante. No, I will say.
You're smoking in the chat. Did anybody say what they're smoking on? Let me see. Well. Yeah. Well, if you're smoking on something. Let us know what you're smoking on.
You know, we talked about a couple of different storylines that kind of intersect. We talk about cannabis laws in other states, and also about our friend Kirk Reed and Brandy Rice, his girl, and their trip to Oklahoma. Oklahoma passed an incredibly friendly cannabis law not that long ago for medical use, and it looks like they may go recreational soon too. Had a very, very low barrier to entry. The only limitation essentially is cities coming on board. Their problem, just like we have here in Michigan.
Well, the guest you had to duck out last week. The guest last week was an industry participant in Oklahoma, and that was a pretty interesting discussion, actually. Just now that you bring this up, the robot farmer. And we discussed a lot of the stuff, including what I thought was really cool is a resident could be growing in their house, at their house, on their property, get the license, which is not cost prohibitive. And if their product meets standard, they can go to market.
That's what we originally envisioned in 2014, but Oklahoma has actually, captured what we originally had wanted for the medical program here in Michigan. So they can catch that video on the YouTube channel, right, Berg? Is that true?
What was that?
Last week's show can be found on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
All those shows can be found on our YouTube channel.
I forgot you left out early, man.
Yep.
Yeah, you gotta show everybody your hands now. He's like, you had to duck out last week.
Just about there.
Looks pretty good, man.
A little more drainage. Yeah.
I seen the one picture that you posted on Facebook, and that shit looked fucking.
Seriously, I've never ever had a problem with insect bites like that before. I've been bitten by a ton of stuff. I had leeches on my legs and Isle Royal. I've had all kinds of crazy shit, but right there, he got me really bad. And so I'm now cautious around the bees in my yard. I have a pear tree in the backyard, and it's dropping pears like crazy because it's autumn, and just like a pear mash underneath there. Bees love it. The tons and tons of bees come to my yard every day. My ass just stays away from that corner of the yard.
You know what kind of bees they are?
Well, it was just like a ground-dwelling bee.
Ground bees are a motherfucker.
They had a nest, and I didn't even realize it. I was just walking around the corner of my house, and boom, he got me. And then I started paying attention, and there was a hole in the ground. So I think I may have mentioned this before, but, humanity is the superior race because we invented raid. So my ass had revenge. But yeah.
Man. Well, as I'm rolling up a hooter, let's have this conversation. So since we've been in quarantine and, we have a rec market here in Michigan and pretty much across the country, whether they have a program or not, a lot of people are smoking a lot of more weed. They have a lot more time on their hands. And a lot of people that were quote unquote rookies have now crossed over into being pretty much seasoned smokers.
Yeah.
They've had the time and to hone their craft a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So with all that being said, what do you guys feel about tolerance breaks?
I actually took a day off when I first got stung on the hand, and I was taking all that the pills that was making me drowsy. I took a day off. It was good. I think that every once in a while, just to renew your buzz. Sometimes you've been smoking for so long, you never really achieve that level of high that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Take a couple days off and then come back to it. Watch it. Colin said he took a while off, and then on our show he said when he came back to it, it totally knocked him on his couch.
Yeah.
Took a week off in January, and I got high for the first time on Jazz Cabbage after that experience. And I had a couple of days of getting a lot higher, a lot sooner than I had been accustomed to before that break. And then I got back on track.
Now, Roach, are you talking about just cannabis, or maybe doing a break from all things like sugar, maybe taking a caffeine break, trying to let your body purge all of that shit and then start over?
Yeah, basically. I mean, me personally, man, I really only just smoke weed. I'm not much of a drinker, and other drugs just don't hold my interest. It's not like something that looks like I want to do with my time. But for some reason, weed is it. As far as like little caffeine breaks, I do that all the time. I try not to drink coffee on a daily basis. I try to break it up. I took a tolerance break from weed a couple of years ago on the show from like one Monday to the next. And like I did get pretty high. I'm not gonna lie. But that was probably it since then. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm in favor of the idea, but I'm not really interested in trying it right now.
Yeah, I mean, we're still in this quarantine lockdown thing, so to speak. But for the normal people out there, because what was that stat? Like the average consumer is spending like $75 a week on cannabis.
I think it was a month.
Was it a month?
Yeah, no, us, we're not the regular consumers, but yeah, like 75 a month on cannabis.
So if they're doing way more than that, you're exceeding that. You might want to take a break.
Yeah. I mean, if you got a quarter ounce and it's lasting you a month because you smoke like, on Saturday nights and you have one joint, then you probably don't need to take a whole lot of break from that. But
well, I mean,
you get so high that the stuff looks cool. What's that, Roach?
How long does an ounce last you?
Week. Sometimes not a week.
A business week or a 7-day week?
7 days. 7 days. Depends on if I'm hanging out with friends and stuff. Because if I'm hanging out with friends, I'm a generous guy. I usually roll a couple joints and stuff. It goes faster if I'm with others. But if it's just me by my lonesome, by my onesies, smoking, about a week.
What about you, Jamie?
3 days when I'm on an ounce when I'm smoking a little bit more regularly. And it might be 4 or 5 if I'm holding back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Or not able to for like the first part of the day or whatever.
What about you, Berg? What's an ounce last year?
An ounce?
2 minutes.
A week.
You're a damn liar, bro. No, I'm on board with Jamie with the 3 days, 4 maybe. I'm bad. I smoke a lot of weed.
Well, also I like to roll big fat joints, which is very wasteful, but I just really prefer to smoke like that.
Well, now it's better because you're smoking less of those cancer-causing nasty papers, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not the papers; it's the cones and the wraps.
This motherfucker rolls fucking. I mean, I roll fat joints, but he rolls woods most of the time. So.
I do, but I mean, I roll joint.
Gram joint or so.
Yeah, I don't know. I eyeballed it. Let's see.
Maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
It goes fast like that, man.
Yeah.
I like it like that though. That's method of preference.
Yeah, I mean, I smoke cigarettes, so like it's got to be at least a cigarette.
Big around as this ink as this pen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Berg. All right.
All right, let me get Sherman over here. Hold on a second.
Oh God.
Let's see.
Did you just roll up, Broach?
Oh, this is some Gorilla Bomb I got from my boy G.
Oh, from your boy G.
From our boy G.
Oh, all right. Gotcha.
He's ours.
Yeah. I mean, we both know him. So I don't know. I guess that's a little bit bigger than a cigarette, but it's there.
It's about the right size.
Good size. Right size.
Mm-hmm.
So, Gorilla Bomb?
Gorilla Bomb.
In the same.
Oh, man, I had the pleasure of session out with my homie Berg and shout out Native Made 313 last night. Who else was there? Schuster. Schuster came up on the scene. I had a little backwood rolling clinic for the youngin'. Hope he learned some. But yeah, that wood I rolled with some Gorilla Bomb. I don't know, it's kind of hard to distinguish it because we smoked a lot of good weed last night.
For sure.
It was burning. Shout out Native Man. We was hanging out the windows.
Did you guys promote this video on your Facebook, Ben?
Yeah.
It should automatically post. Sometimes it doesn't.
It's automatic, but sometimes it doesn't. Just decides not to. It's interrupted by leap year.
All right. Okay. They're having an interesting conversation here in the chat. What is your criteria for cannabis? I don't want to say for the purchase of cannabis, but you guys know what I'm talking
about. When I'm really desperate, obviously you take the best that's available, best you can discern. But if I'm having my druthers, I'm a citrusy guy. I love the oranges, I love the lemons. If it's got a lot of gas, if it's got a good aroma, to me, I want to enjoy that all the way through the cannabis joint. I want to enjoy it from start to finish. And when it's real gassy like that in the bag, it's my belief that it's like that all the way through the draw. So
yeah. Well, I mean, if you got two different kinds of cannabis, both good quality, what is going to give one the edge over the other?
I like a nice cure. If it's too wet, then oftentimes it's just so harsh. It's difficult to enjoy. The smell, though, I mean, I love the same things I think we all love. A little bit of frost. I need to be able to see some trichomes. I'd like to see some nice orange hairs. I like to look at a cannabis bud and think that it was harvested at the right time. Jamie knows sometimes you can just look at a bud and think, yeah, okay, this is a little bit premature, but you harvested it anyway. I dig it. So, by the way, cannabis chef Gigi Diaz just liked my post on Facebook that we are live on YouTube right now. Look for her in chat if she comes on. That's awesome. She's a good interviewer.
Working
Yeah,
with
we've had her on a
Q.
couple of times, man. Shout out Chef Gigi.
She's badass. What were you saying, James?
Working with Q, Banquinet on a project.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have a line of edibles going here in a few months.
I am.
All works out.
I'm going to an event this coming Sunday, which is a high tea event where Q is going to be speaking at. It's one of those events that you're talking about, and it's possible that Chef Gigi might be our chef
Nice.
on that date. It would be awesome if she is. So.
Yeah, I did the high tea party or whatever. It was very cool.
At the MICIA event in Traverse, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so what about you, Jamie? Two good bags. Which one's getting picked?
So I am not I'm not extremely picky. Just I'm kind of flexible. I work with a lot of different kinds of cannabis. I prefer, higher quality cannabis, but one like describable thing over another is not necessarily my approach. But there are times when I'm kind of, before consuming anyway, checking out the bud and experiencing, the essence and all the other appeal factors and using my senses. And sometimes there's more of a connection to one than the other. And that would be how I would choose it at the moment.
That's fair. What about you, Berg? What's the sink or swim?
How do I pick my weed, man? Is that what the original question was?
No, if you have two bags of weed, what edge would a bag have to have for you to pick it over the other?
I mean, if the only thing if it costs the same and everything.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
so
probably
cost is a factor, though.
Gassier the better, but I like all different kinds of terps. I'm not a big fucking fan of hazy type shit, but I don't know. Like I'm more of a fucking hard hitter. Like I don't know, but I do like fruity strains, like combo packs. That's what I always say. Where it's like fucking gassy and fruity. So I think more gassier the better.
Yeah, for sure, man. I don't know. For me, I know there's no real indicas anymore, but whatever seems the most indica-ish is what I'm gonna go with, regardless of all the other factors.
Leaves, denser bud.
Yeah.
No. I love being able to have a big choice available to me, but I can't see me sticking my nose into 12 or 14 different jars. It's great that you have a big variety of things available to me, but if I'm going into a commercial place, or even if I'm with a caregiver who has a lot of different choices, I'm going to tell you what I like, narrow it down, give me 2 or 3 to pick from. That's the best way for me to go. I get confused after I've sniffed 6 or 7 different ones. I love doing it, but at that point I don't remember what the third one smelled like. I have no idea. So from a consumer standpoint, I can use a little bit more of a straightforward presentation, but from a connoisseur's perspective, I do enjoy that each strain has its own characteristics.
Yeah, I can respect that, man. I like variety, but I like a variety of indicas. The variety is always good. I'll try anything once. I'll take a hit just to, you know, experience the
Any?
essence. What?
You hit any kind of weed?
Yeah. I mean, I'll give it a shot. I mean, shout out Nick the Spick. He was on last week. I hit one of his blunts one time, and like I was straight.
Oh, it was the week before, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Who shows
it was
you
the
got it?
week before. Yeah, it was like some Tropicana cookie, some shit. I couldn't do it, but I hit it. I gave it a shot. You know, it might have been all right.
It was just too tangy for you.
Yeah, no, I'm just anti-tangy. Like I said, shout out to Nick. He usually got that fire, and I'm sure that was some fire Tropicana cookie. That's just, it's not my lane.
Rick would have loved that shit.
Fuck yes,
Probably,
I would
you
have loved
probably
that
would have,
stuff.
bro.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's yeah, it's depressing when you walk in. I say, got something citrusy, and they say, I got platinum OG. It's like, oh, that's not even that doesn't even meet the fucking definition.
I'll be like, that's the best bud tender ever. He deserves a raise.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Head of your class at your training school, right?
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, if they ask for citrus, give them OGs.
But you know, that's the beauty of having a caregiver. It's the beauty of having somebody you can talk to. You know. But there's a lot of different ways where cannabis is really becoming just so mainstream. I'm seeing cannabis use now on shows being featured on like Netflix and other places. It's not censor worthy anymore. The censors don't even bother trying to pick it out any longer. It's just part of our culture now.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
I mean, the whole thing about making it mainstream and making everything rec and everything, you know, I think they're just trying to get away from the whole fucking thing about it being medical. Like, I mean, it just, I don't know, man. They
Well, the
want to
revenue
take.
stream for the state is with the MRTMA and the excise tax, so that the angle to put a lot of the activity through that, I think, seems to kind of be there.
Yeah. They want to go have everybody buy things legally to collect the 10% excise tax, because when you buy things medically, there's no tax collected here in Michigan for our viewers. What about the argument that police officers need to get paid by cannabis consumers through an extra little bit of excise tax because, for whatever reason, they're spending money trying to enforce the cannabis laws? Right?
Yeah, I feel like if the state really wanted to do away with the black market, they would totally decriminalize weed, stop taxing weed, let the price go down, make it like selling grapes, and all that shit would disappear. And the only people that would be doing it would be the people that really have love and passion for it.
So let me propose this though. Okay, having been in the illegal cannabis game, kind of famously so, we operate like it's legal already. Right? The people that are illegally distributing cannabis right now, they don't give a shit whether it's legal or illegal. Their customers still want cannabis, still willing to pay that price, whether it's legal or illegal. They'll be there day in, day out. We take the criminality away from it. I don't think we affect the supply chain at all. Right? Because everybody acts like it's not illegal anymore anyway. So the only thing is we we need to do it for many, many different reasons to stop people in hospital situations from having to face problems, especially pregnant moms, from employment situations to veteran situations to college admission situations. I mean, there's a million different ways. PTA, my kid at school, there's a billion different reasons why we need to make cannabis completely, totally free and legal. But I don't think it's really going to affect the supply chain that much if we do.
Yeah, no, like years ago, we interviewed a young lady from California who was on her way to an event, a cannabis event, and she had a bunch of glass in her purse, and she was pregnant, and she started to not feel well. You remember this story, Berg? I forget the girl's name. But she went to the hospital to get checked out about her, her baby, her pregnancy, and the nurse
Like a
noticed.
fucking crackhead. They
Yeah,
treated her like a fucking crackhead.
the nurse noticed RSO syringes in her purse and thought it was heroin. So they had the police and CPS hospital and seize all her glass, and they were asking her how does she do heroin out of rigs and shit. And like the police were completely ignorant to what the fuck she was doing, what the stuff represented, and everything. It was a horrible story. And I
We
want to say
heard
that was
that
a
so many
good.
times.
What was that, like 3 years ago? That was like early on.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like at this point in history, cops kind of know what all that stuff is about now. They know what Rick Simpson oil is. They know what a rig is and stuff like that. I think when cops, jump the gun or are a little aggressive with cannabis, it's because they want to be. It's not because they're ignorant. So I feel we've come at least that far.
I remember when I published the Michigan Medical Marijuana Magazine, I had an issue where I had a photo essay of just different things, what Rick Simpson oil was, what pixie dust was, what Keef looked, all these different things. And later on, someone who had been at the Lapeer County Sheriff's Department said that they were using my article from my magazine as a training guide for their people to know what cannabis items were, so they knew what to look for. Now that's positive because now they're not trying to mistake it for heroin like you're talking about, Roach. But it's also kind of negative too, because now they're looking in every little nook and cranny for a tiny little cylinder containing some keef. Just ridiculous.
Yeah, no, man. When I was still a teenager, and I got pulled over with two of my friends, and we had an ice bong. So it was like this makeshift fucking pop bottle bong, and the cops thought it was a bomb. Like they really were freaking out until like backup showed up and started laughing at them. But the cops that pulled us over were like they were positive that they had just stopped some shit.
They were ready to get Hero of the Day badges and a little special banner that they get to wear on their uniform, right? Yep.
Yeah, no, like when the backup showed up, those cops took our weed. They dumped the water out of the bong, and like the weed was like all wet. Like we were just getting ready to try to fucking smoke some weed, and we didn't even get that far.
I blame the state police for a lot of this shit because when cannabis was on the market, they had undercovers buying all kinds of different things in our shops, Jamie's shop, my shop, other places in Ann Arbor or out by Port Huron with the Blue Water Group. I mean, they had undercovers and they're buying all the crazy things we were selling at that time, anything new. So they had all that info, and they never wanted to share it. They never wanted to take any pictures and say, this is this. They didn't want to educate the officers throughout the whole state. Neither the state troopers nor the county or local officials, which is really one of the duties MSP is assigned to. So they had all this info, and they could have educated their officers, but they didn't. So shit like what you just talked about was really... I mean, after 2008 was inexcusable, because every time we had a new innovation, they had that shit. There's nothing new that came out that they didn't have their hands on.
No, in the 90s, it was bad.
Yeah. They were willfully ignorant, right? Isn't that what you're thinking, Roach? Willfully ignorant?
Well, no, to a certain degree, they really were ignorant. Like, Berg, like, there's this story that, you know, a few of us got pulled over, and you know, this was back in the Philly Blunt days, so we had a baggie that was just full of the guts.
The tobacco.
Yeah, we got pulled over, and we had smoked all the weed we had, but we just had this bag full of the tobacco guts. And like one of the rookie cops, he like found the bag, and he was like, "I got it! I found the bag!" He was like all excited, like. You know, he got his first collar.
They were mad at me. They all got mad.
Attaboy.
The guy who found it got mad at me because I started laughing at him.
So like, we got this one friend, man. He just like, I don't know. He can fuck up any saying, any figure of speech has like an extra 10 words in it when he says it. So the guy jumps out of the vehicle, and he's got this bag of fucking blunt guts, and he's like, "I found it, Sarge," or whatever the fuck he was saying to the guy. And like the other cop is coming over, and the guy's like, "Oh, that's just the remnants of the blunt." And like the guy was like, "Remnants of the blunt," and then my boy started like telling him like, "Well, yeah, you know, we get the blunt, we got to cut it open," and like he was
sounds like the name of a band.
He was totally dry snitching on the whole squad, man. It was a horrible night. In retrospect, it was a horrible night.
Laughing, cops are like, "Shut up, shut up."
Yeah, I'm sure they were.
Shut up. No.
Don't laugh at me. I got a
I
gun.
had 3 guns on me. I'm like, holy shit, man.
Yeah, because you're laughing.
Yeah, no, like, I hate to say it, man, but like, anytime I got pulled over with Berg, it was like the best way to get pulled over because they were not fucking with me at all.
Berg draws attention.
I was just like basically a bystander to like whatever the fuck they were gonna do to Berg.
They always ask him, "What the fuck are you doing with him? Why are you hanging with him?" I'm like, "With me?"
Like, he's my friend, man.
I stick up for him. You know, he's had a tough life. I let him hang around, you know.
Yeah. No, he's not that bad. Once you get to know him, you know. You know, shit happens. Oh man. So did you find any stories, Berg? That's so bad.
I mean, I brought up that shit. I mean, man, it's
correct.
I mean, just because of the snow, I haven't heard any like outcome from the fucking outdoor in California. You know, I'm sure they're getting hit too. Not even by the fucking, not even, they might not be fucking like dying from the weather, but from the ashes, you know, all that shit. Like, they have orange skies over in California right now. Shit's crazy.
Our skies tonight in Michigan were hazy, and the weatherman on the 6 o'clock news explained that's the smoke from California, people. It's up at about 20 to 30,000 feet, so it's actually up above the cloud layers, which is why it hazes it, and it doesn't interfere with the formation of clouds or rain. But yeah, that's why you're not getting direct sunlight.
Yeah, for sure.
The Cali effect is upon us. I told you that shit was boo.
You know, we thought the Cali cloud would be coming from Mendo, but in fact, it's coming from the fires. That's sad.
Well, I mean, shit. Earlier this year, Australia was burning the same fucking way.
Yeah, for sure.
South America was burning not too long ago pretty extensively.
Yeah.
You know, if I didn't know any better, I'd say the Earth was kind of taking care of itself.
It's getting rid of the disease. Dun, dun, dun.
You know
Just
that
like when
fire-
a dog shakes to get rid of fleas, yeah.
The fires in California was started by people who were having like a go ahead,
Gender
Rick.
reveal.
You're right. Little get together. That,
So they have a pyrotechnic device, and everybody gathers around. And if it's going to be a boy, it shoots out blue smoke, and if it's going to be a girl, it shoots out pink smoke. So they gather around to get excited, and it shoots out the smoke, and lo and behold, a fucking fire starts because you're in the middle of a drought in the forest with a flame device.
Is it a boy or a girl?
I really honestly don't know.
Oh, man.
I'm hopeful they have octuplets, so they have a lot of pain and suffering, because as a parent, if you had 8 at once, it would be a lot of pain and suffering.
Somebody's going to beat them kids up.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. When you were born, my family's farm burned down. Punch.
Man, that's fucked up.
He'll hide his identity. They'll move to like Nebraska or someplace.
I mean, shit, we're suffering from it here in Michigan.
What?
There's no place they're safe.
Well, the air quality is so bad it's the worst it's ever been in Los Angeles because of the fires, not because of the smog. Worst ever in Oregon and Washington history. Portland, they said, do not go outside your home. They said, especially if you are a child, as infants, your lungs are just developing still. They said, don't go out. It's that bad. I mean, they're losing entire cities. Now, we've seen, fire burn part of a city. We've seen fire burn a house. But to go through and burn an entire city and everything around it, it's like nothing but a ghostly, haunting area of white ash on the ground and these blackened, charred, gnarled, leafless trees, like constant Halloween, like a constant spectral spooky scene everywhere you look for miles and miles on end. Crazy.
Yeah, buddy, man. I mean, but it's something that happens in that area. Okay, I get that it's extreme, but like, even if it wasn't this extreme burning season, it was still burning season right now. Like, people know this shit. I don't know,
Makes it extra fucked up that they did that.
Yeah, it is extra fucked up.
It's like if you get shot in Detroit during shooting season, like, you knew it was shooting season. You should have went to your, you should have made that move, buddy.
Essentially like mid-April all the way through to November 1st, man. Shooting season. Right.
Duck season. No, rabbit season. No, duck season. Yeah, just like that.
Tourist season. Or, neighbor season. They're looking for the person who homicided somebody right here in Flint. Just a little bit north of downtown, right off Saginaw Street. Right outside their home. Right outside their home. In their own front yard. So, I mean, be glad for the time you got. Kiss your kids. Tell people you love them. You never know. You never know.
Yep. December 1st to November 31st.
That's what you think shooting season is, all the way through November 31st?
Yep.
November's cold as fuck, man. I don't know. Is the homicide rate still pretty up there?
It's so cold in the deep.
Mm-hmm. Up here too.
There is an attorney general from maybe Iowa, but I'm not positive about that, who reported hitting a deer while driving, and then the next day a body was found in that area.
Oh.
I don't have that in front of me, but I just thought about that when you said that. That's a weird one.
Man, well, I ran across this story, man, and I felt some kind of way, but I'm gonna say it. Since we were discussing all these contaminated papers and carts and, you know, delivery apparatuses, Pakistan has just legalized industrial hemp, industrial cannabis and hemp. So with that, I'm sure they're going to start pumping out CBD products. And I fear that they're going to come over here to the States with some contaminated stuff. I don't know if Pakistan's going to have the same standards that we have, and like so much stuff that we see, you know, that gets bootlegged. I'd hate for it to start being like what people think is medicine, and it's, you know, substandard.
It's a real fear. You're right. I mean,
You know,
if we go back to the vape crisis, it's an unregulated industry. So people put whatever the hell they thought was okay into those carts, and they did it and got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, right up until the point where people got sick. And then we started paying attention. The CBD industry is getting some attention right now too. But you're right. I mean, as far as import standards, there's none. None.
yeah, no, and I mean, I feel like that's what's going to feed the stigma. Is, you know, we made it past this round of contaminated vape carts from, you know, these bootleg unknown companies, these pop-up cannabis companies in different states. But we can't really afford to have too many more of those. So when all these other companies start producing, or these other countries start producing like these global products, and shit's just out there on a whim, I think it's going to start to contaminate opinion. This might not be the best thing, because like, are they moving forward responsibly? Like, who's enforcing shit in Pakistan, bro? Like, aren't they at war or something? Like, this shit just seems crazy to me.
Well, geographically, it makes a lot of sense for Pakistan, because a lot of Pakistan, especially part of the area in the highlands area where, you know, it's on the border of Russia, you're looking at places where the hemp should grow fantastically, should do super well. That's like what we consider to be some of the birthplaces of some of the strains, you know. Indus Valley Kush, right? Well, you know where the Indus Valley is, you know, so
Yeah, I get that, but the quality, man, the quality control.
Well, and we oftentimes say that the stuff that's not good enough for America just gets shipped to the third world. Well, there's no money selling stuff in the third world because people don't have any consumer cash. America's the big market, so you try really, really, really hard to make your booth go in our market, man, and it hurts people.
And that's what I keep saying about rec, man. Like, people are gonna fucking lose sight of it being actual medicine. It can fucking help people.
Yeah, and I mean,
getting it into a fucking little package. Marlboro wants in that game, you know. All these motherfuckers, you know, like,
mass production equals maximum profits.
Yeah, and no, and I mean, I'm not even concerned so much as far as it getting into the American market, so to speak. But, you know, who's regulating, some Pakistani CBD in Jamaica or, some vacation spot outside of the US,
Yep.
People are going to get hurt. They're going to get fucked up and they're going to be like, oh, evil cannabis poisoning people.
So there's an international body, the World Health Organization, and another international body that sets standards for certain things, certain consumer intake goods. It's just a guideline. It's not mandatory, but it is a good way for people in foreign countries who don't have their own, their own group of people to decide this for them, whether something is consumable by humans or not. But nobody's even doing research on publishing standards for CBD, to the best of my knowledge. We're still arguing about the hemp standard. Internationally, the hemp standard is like 1%, but here in America, we're stuck on 0.3%. So there's a way we're still trying to get even some of the basic common definitions agreed upon before we can start doing some of the more important work, like making sure people get safe and mandatory testing and the things you're talking about, Roach. And man, we should be so much further ahead than we are now. This is a conversation that, first of all, it's easy to have. So once you start it, it should be simple to agree on some basic things. But we should have had this a long time ago.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I guess, I don't know, man. Is Pakistan considered a third world country?
Technically, yeah, so to speak. I mean, the first world countries are considered Western countries, typically NATO-style countries. The third world are what we consider to be developing countries. And Pakistan, as far as when you define developing countries by their gross domestic product or their economic status, Pakistan is still in that way. Pakistan's also in a bad situation because it's got a hot border situation with India to its east. And India really, they have long-standing, generations-long issues with Pakistan, cultural issues. So that's not going anywhere anytime soon. So that inhibits some of the things that Pakistan can do because they spend a lot of money shoring up that particular thing instead of investing in infrastructure, making it more possible to make advancements.
Yeah, no, and I mean, nothing against Pakistan. I'm just weary of the situations that can arise in places that have that level of instability. That's all.
Well, I'm always encouraged whenever I see a nation, adopt some pro-cannabis laws, whether it's hemp or what we consider to be marijuana or cannabis, period. But Pakistan is one of those where, maybe they're trying to come up with another international commodity so that they can get in on this international marketplace. We've seen transfers taking place between Latin American countries and European countries. Technologically, we've seen Israel, even Australia, some of those other places that you might not imagine. These people are pioneering technologies and securing patents, which are going to be big money for those folks. And I have no doubt in my mind that the Chinese are working on shit too, because they're not somebody to watch other people make money and not try and get in on it themselves. So in my mind, I think we're looking at internationally a whole lot more interest in this than we've seen ever before. And more countries like Pakistan are going to get involved. Even countries that don't have a really well-developed agricultural, system are still going to jump in on it.
Yeah, people, I encourage you to start growing your own weed. At least know how. Get with it.
Yep. Well, I'll say this: we're really seeing a new day dawning in America. When we take away some of the lies of the drug war, those are the real, apparent, obvious lies. Those are easy to strip away. Changing public opinion is harder. But once we've done that, then we can tackle some of the tougher things we have, like systemic racism, like social injustice, like the income disparity between the haves and the have-nots. We can address things like healthcare for all and universal basic income. We can make sure that no matter what their financial condition, each individual person is respected as a human being. the way that our country was intended to be. Maybe not necessarily the way the Constitution was written, because the way the Constitution was written, not every motherfucker was equal, that's for sure. But the idea of America, was a place where anyone from any place could come. If you could get here, you were good. We got you. And it really hasn't turned out to be like that anymore.
And I guess, let me amend my thought a little bit. I'll let it marinate a little further. And I guess, maybe cannabis is good for a developing country like Pakistan. If cannabis and hemp become more prevalent, maybe so will chilled out people. It kind of goes hand in hand. So hopefully, the chill will overcome the greed in the big picture. So with that being said, like I wouldn't have a problem if they got into like, textiles or doing different things besides creating consumable products. I don't know, I guess, extracting CBD oil is kind of at the base of everything,
but you can use hemp for so many different things. You
Yeah.
can use hemp for you can export it.
It's like all, look at all the different things that hemp can do.
Yep.
Yeah,
Some of
no, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot that they could get into besides consumable CBD products.
Right. I'm, I have a little speech that I sometimes make when I do things. I talk about hemp and its ability to change the world. And I talk about hemp in the Amazon rainforest and providing an internationally marketable crop for people to grow instead of trying to just grow cows to sell hamburger to McDonald's in America and having to, slash and burn chunks of Amazon rainforest every 4 years because that's about how long the grass will grow before it starts dying and they have to move the cattle. So, in Africa, there's a lot of indigenous people that just don't have any kind of cash crops and they struggle to even provide firewood for their subsistence. But you give them hemp and you'd make it legal. Hemp can grow in arid environments. It can grow without a whole lot of extra tending. It can grow without pesticides that they don't have. And it can be used in fuel for so many different ways. Plus, growing it for seed, you can use the seed oil for so many different consumptive ways. So when you start talking about passing a law and having it really change people's lives, if a country like Senegal were to pass a pro hemp law and let people start growing this in their fields, I think it could really change people's lives fundamentally, to alter the course of entire communities who are struggling to find anything for their people to do.
Yeah,
Here in the United States of America, we got that problem too.
And on top of all of that, Rick, it's also like repairing the soil and the earth where they're planting and growing the hemp.
Yes.
So it's like, bonus. It makes that soil viable for another crop in the rotation of the field. I mean, come on.
Yep. There are a lot of times people have like they have goat herds in a lot of places, dowries that you're paid to between husband and wife's families when people get married. Dowries are often paid in goats. The one thing they have in abundance there, goat poop. If you were harvesting that goat poop to be able to use for fertilizer someplace else, right? You're just being a goat herd, but now you got an extra source of revenue, right? Now you've all of a sudden picked up something that you can use. And then there's the guy that hauls that poop away that gets paid, and the farmer, that yields it at the end. When you start looking at the ways in which having a hemp agrarian economy would benefit some of the indigenous cultural peoples in some of the stressed out areas of the world, and that whole system could work in Micronesia, in off the Philippines and the Indonesian islands. Say it's okay for those people to grow hemp. That's lush land. They could grow wonderful hemp there. They could grow hemp trees like bamboo trees down there. You know? They just need somebody to say it's okay and to provide them with the basic resources and equipment. And then all of a sudden we won't be using any stupid cotton plants to try and grow fibers for our clothes. Cotton is so destructive. I don't know if you've ever seen any specials about it, but in order to make a cotton shirt, the cotton it requires bleaching. It requires some of the most chemically demanding processing practices. It's really bad. So having an alternative would be so much better.
I mean, we have the alternative. We're just not using it for some.
But here's the thing, though, Roach. In Europe, they've had industrial hemp available for a long time in certain countries. But hemp clothing never caught on because it wasn't commercially competitive on a price scale. So we need to support the hemp industry. Nice joint. We need to commercially support the hemp industry so that the price of the end product is competitive with what we currently see in the marketplace. So that way the industry can get launched off so they don't need our help anymore. We got to be able to get hemp things to market. We already think it's cool to own hemp clothes. Hemp already is kind of a rebellious hippie kind of everybody loves it. It's sort of fashionable thing. Just give us some available. Make something out there.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see hemp used in 3D printing. I think that would be like the ultimate.
Jamie, talk. You got it.
It is currently used in 3D printing now in many different ways. But yeah, there's room for more of it. And hopefully with all the new hemp farmers that are coming online, the byproduct of a lot of the stuff that they use is the thing that can be used to ultimately make the filament that goes into the 3D printers.
Yeah, I want to say shout out to Midnight Roots and Giancarlo. Their what are they called? The Megars, the little packer tool that they made is I think 3D hemp printed.
I've seen the plan for that.
But the idea of 3D printing a building from hempcrete, okay?
Yeah, that can be done and has been done too.
Right.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah. Car body.
I mean, that's amazing to me.
There's different types of 3D printing, and you can use all different kinds of materials, and it is really cool. There's an economy there that's going to be changes when people all have them in their homes. Is is the course that this is on. You no longer like rely on a big manufacturing plant to make a bunch of one thing that you go to the store to buy. When you need it, you just print it right there.
Well, I've seen these guys hauling prefab houses, not mobile homes, but whole prefab houses, right, down the expressway with their extra wide loads and stuff. Folks can deliver shit almost anywhere, right? So you could have a place where you're 3D printing prefab homes, or at least home sections, and then ship them and have them dropped on site, and then have a crew come latch those motherfuckers together. Make yourself a gigantical home. Rock it out. Jamie, is that 3D? Is that hempcrete? Is that structural now, or is it still just decorative?
Yeah, as far as I know, it's not one of the materials that can be used for like a residential home or something. Say like a shed or something like that. It can be used for, but there's still some ways to go. Although it is a really good material.
Yeah, no, I mean, just imagine that technology being like readily available to the public and affordable. And you have a small garden and you have your harvest and you got some nice choice flour. And then with all your stalk and leaf, you grind that down and like print yourself a new deck for the backyard. Like that's a sustainable lifestyle right there, man.
Yeah.
Roach, I've been thinking about a cellar, like an herb cellar. You know, the old time things you actually go down in the ground. Part of the problem with those always was because they accumulated water and they get mold on them and stuff. Hempcrete doesn't mold. It's mold resistant, and there's no leakage on it at all. You're really forming it from a single thing. It's not individual bricks being mortared together. So you could have an awesome thing and just bury it in the ground. That'd be great.
It's not possible though to go out and get a fucking bag of hempcrete, is it? Like you literally have to make it yourself. Like you have to add the hemp to the fucking.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I mean, whenever you're making concrete, you can put in additives like throughout the year. There's like different stuff you got to put in it. Whether if it's like hot out, there's different stuff you got to put in it. If it's cold out, you know, if you want to get certain strengths, there's fucking fibers they put in there. So yeah, all you really would have to do is
you can go to fucking Home Depot and buy some fucking regular concrete and mix it up and, you know, pour your own shit. You can't do that with hempcrete, right? Like,
so when we did hempcrete, this was several years ago. It was essentially a bag of hemp herds, processed mulled hemp herds, and lime. So you put the hemp herds in the mortar roller and water. Put that in the mortar roller. You put in the correct amount of lye, and then you added some water, and then it created the hempcrete. Now at that time we were reinforcing those walls with wooden blocks. Okay, so we would take actual blocks of wood, stick it in there, mostly hempcrete, and then here's a block of wood too. So it was a mostly hempcrete, but also had some wood in it as well, because that's the only way to provide the stability for the wall at that point.
So there was no silica involved at all?
No, not at that point. But remember, this was I've been into this for a while. That was 15, maybe 14. Eric Gunnels and I went up to Joe Brown's place, to Holy Ground up north, which is
and it was a shed that they essentially was built. It wasn't like a residential structure or anything like that.
Yep. It was going to be used as the main floor of like a root cellar type thing, and then they were building a structure on top of it. So they were going to build it, and then they were going to build something on top of it that had its own function and everything.
And it was hemp that they trucked in from Kentucky, all legally.
So basically, they had their own recipe. Like they did it themselves. Like
no, that's the standard hempcrete recipe. Now there may be a formula where they have it pre-bagged, man, which would make sense. Bird.
That would be awesome. That's what I'm saying.
That would make sense. Just add water, hempcrete. Yep. Roach, you done concrete work before?
Yeah.
So you know that at the end of the day, you can't just turn right around and dump your concrete mixer right on the ground. You know, you can't do that because that's it fucks everything up. But with hempcrete, you can just dump it right on the ground. It's just hemp herds and lye and water. That's it. Doesn't harm the environment. It's beautiful. Cleanup is easy.
It's also flame retardant. In the demonstrations, they take like this huge, like torch-like heater thing, and put it right up next to the material, to the block of hemp, and let it just hang there for hours and see how it never really gets that far.
Right. You know, we're doing a lot with material science. I thought in 2020 we knew a lot, but we're developing better earthquake-proof buildings. We're going to develop better forest fire resistant buildings by using hempcrete. Like Jamie just said, no matter what the temp is, a hempcrete building is going to be just fine. You could burn the shingles off, you could burn whatever paint off the outside. The hempcrete building will be okay. It'll be
all
okay.
right. So I got some hempcrete blocks, 16-inch blocks. So like basically a cinder block, but out of hempcrete. You got like DIY kits and recipes, and you got bags of the hemp herd.
All right.
So, it's out there. The tech's out there. Oh, there's even like what it looks like. It might be like some 3D printed composite Lego blocks, but they're like the size of cinder blocks. You just can stack them up like Lego, like life-size Legos. It's kind of cool.
What's it cost? Can you tell me?
$131 for 18 of them. Hold on, let me see.
You could build a castle with that.
It's less than $10 a block. It's about $7 a block.
Yeah, they're a foot. They're 12-inch blocks.
Be an expensive wall.
Well, there's going to be a lot more production, though. Hopefully, now that there's so many more hemp farmers.
Yep, maybe we should convince Trump that that's what to do to make the wall out of on the southern border. Make it out of hempcrete. Jumpstart the industry.
Right. Nice dreams too.
Yeah. Well, the Mexicans, they'll get to the wall and they'll just smoke it, man. They won't kind of come across. No, they'll just smoke the wall. Trump is so stupid.
So
smoke when the car made out of it catches on fire.
That is such a great flick. The concept there is like what we're talking about. They take the cannabis, they sort of liquefy it into a fiberglass mixture, and then they create an entire car made out of this, pot fiberglass.
Henry Ford already did this shit with aluminum. I mean, it's already proven.
And fueled it with
with hemp oil.
Yeah.
But yeah,
ways in which business.
What do you guys got going on? What do you guys got going on tomorrow at Chaz Cabbage? You got your boy Kirk.
We got Captain Kirk coming on. We'll talk about some of this stuff. Maybe we'll get to the MORE Act a little bit. And there was like an op-ed by Jeff Seidel, a journalist in the Free Press, recently about his journey into cannabis after many years of reluctance. And I thought it was pretty well written. There's some things about that I kind of want to discuss tomorrow too. But yeah, we'll have Captain Kirk on. Obviously Rick will be there, and it'll be another good show, and hopefully you guys can make it. You haven't made it out last couple times around, but you are always more than welcome, and I will send you the link.
Seidel is a well-known sportscaster in the city of Detroit. So when he put this out, it's a really long, detailed story about his struggle with pain, with a disc in his back. And at the end of the story, he says he's having surgery, and then after the surgery, he doesn't plan to use cannabis any longer, but he still wants to advocate for its use because it helped him through this time. And although I can respect that position, I still wish he'd want to continue to use the cannabis after the surgery too. It's my thought.
Well, there's some cool there's some discussions there surrounding some of the stuff that he discusses in his journey. So I want to do that a little bit tomorrow.
Cool.
Hey, what's up with those sponsors, Berg? Let's shout them guys out.
Huge shout out.
Huge shout out to our sponsors. We got Honeybee Extractions, Native Made 313, Ghostbuster Farm, Western Tobacco, Michigan Turp Farm. And who's the last one, Berg?
Label my motherfucking bud.
Special shout out to Cannabis Promos 313. We love you.
For sure. Huge shout out for everybody for hopping on the chat and everything. Yeah, we gotta go through here and figure out what everybody's saying. But yeah, tune in next week. Tune in tomorrow, 4 p.m. Facebook, Jazz Cabbage Cafe, and tune in next week, Medical Monday. All right, y'all. Peace.